Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, of course. You good old boys in Canada, you know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, on a beautiful May the 6th, 2019, Grando Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, it's a hell of a day down here. I feel like I'm in labor. I've been having back spasms, after the Kentucky Derby over the weekend, they having replay spasms.
Yeah.
And, the NBA has got everybody up in arms over betting. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess since the Royals had a new baby boy today, Prince Harry and Princess Meghan Markle
Yes.
gave birth to a 7-pound, 4-ounce boy today, and I guess I'm trying to emulate what she went through. I'm laying here on my back with my legs up in the air, Charlton, and trying to get through the show.
Well, I understand. I just want to make one correction. It was Meghan Markle that had the baby, because if it was left up to Prince, there'd be no baby, Big C.
Well, Harry said it was the most gorgeous thing he ever saw, wonderful thing he ever saw. So, he put his eyes into it. He didn't feel any of the labor pains, but, he came out a joyous dad today, Charlton.
Yeah.
And you think about this. This is the first royal that was ever born that is multicultural.
Yeah.
You think about that. That is of African-American descent.
Yeah.
That has an opportunity to ascend to the throne in the monarchy of England.
Yeah.
So when you talk about a country of acceptance that doesn't deal with racial vitriol and trying to keep people out of the country, there's an heir now to the British throne, the monarchy, that is part African-American, Charlton.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. All life came from the African continent, but we know if you listen to different histories, they'll tell you that it didn't. But we all know it's true. And I want to wish them congratulations. I think anyone who's ever, had a child, I can only speak from having being the father of 2 children myself, when my wife had our 2 children, and just realizing that it really is a miracle. And I know they're going to do everything they can to give the baby everything humanly possible to make life better. And I know a lot of people, even though they may not be considered, royalty, but they can still appreciate the fact. And I think only as men we can only say this: women must have that same feeling how it felt when they were having their child. I do want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. So when you think about what you just said, Big C, and everybody has an affinity for their own born, and they want to say, this is my child. And I think that they must have that same feeling. This is new for both. It's new for them to have this union. They both produced a child. What kind of message do you think they'll send to the world, if there's any, that has to do with diversity and how we cannot be so separate, if that makes any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, the diversity was born in the union, in the marriage of these 2, Charlton. But when you think about having a child, I think myself as being a parent.
Yeah.
I think of all the accomplishments I've ever had in life. And people want to think that sports and ascending to the top of those games and accomplishments that you can have individually.
Yeah.
The greatest thing I've ever done in life is become a parent, Charlton, to become a dad. That is the greatest accomplishment in life, because when you look at sports, if you make an error in sports, you can get up and you have another play, you can try again, you have another game.
Yeah.
You have one opportunity as a parent to get it right.
Yep.
You can't do it over. So when you think about the responsibility of being a parent anywhere in the world, Charlton, and we're celebrating this birth in England, but there were 72,000 children born in the world today, Charlton, that were accounted for.
Yeah.
So when you think about the opportunity to become a parent, to give that child the best opportunity that you could give them in life.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about affordability, what you could give monetarily.
Yeah.
I'm talking about preparing them to move on to do better than you. that's your job as a parent, regardless of what level of finance or society that you're in.
I really like what you're saying there, and I know growing up, just having a lot of love. I grew up with a lot of love, discipline and love, and to believe in God, believe in treating people fair, and that's something that's great. But you touched on something that I hope, across the pond, that, England's been around a lot longer than the United States of America. And I know when it comes to issues of race, what you do is more important than what you say. There are a lot of people who talk about being egalitarian and being fair, but they only run around their whole circle. Everybody looks like them. Like, there are people who will sample different wines, but they won't sample different ethnic groups or different churches or different anything. And that's something that I hope, if you think about the late Princess Diana and Dodi Al-Fayed and how her life came to a tragic end by being chased by paparazzi, etc. But I thought that moment back in 1997 for the late Princess Diana, that would have done so much more for America and our racial issues, because we've always tried to emulate England, but that didn't happen. Maybe this is the second chance for that. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if Diana was alive, she would be 54 years old today, celebrating the birth of her second son's first child.
Yeah.
So you think about those young men, Charlton, growing up without their mother, and how accomplished they've been in life, the things that they've done, especially Prince Harry being involved in Invictus Games for handicapped individuals around the world, and he's one of the spearheads of that organization, Charlton.
Yeah.
But just to go out and be a leader by example.
Yeah.
To not denigrate people, but only try to lift people up.
I think that's so true. And, when you think about the late Dr. Martin Luther King and how he preached about egalitarianism and I am my brother's keeper and turn the other cheek and, only love can conquer hate. Whether you look at an individual family, whether you look at neighbors, or even in countries, with all the things that are going on in this world, it's nice to have people who can break that garbage that has been America's greatest sin, which is slavery, and then the bigotry that it gave birth to, Big C, that it still exists. And I just hope that in America, that we as black men, we've been able to see the good and bad of America. I think mostly white Americans haven't been able to see the bad. They've been able to witness it from the outside, but they never really experienced it pejoratively. I'm sure some have. And I hope that young kids of color and people who are Caucasian, I hope that they can look at his example and her example. He could have stayed within his own eugenic race. He could have stayed within the own, that white look, that eugenic look, that European look. But he chose not to, because it's hard to get into that family. You got to be accepted into it, Big C. What does that say that for other white men who know that discrimination exists, they know that bigotry exists, what can they learn from Harry, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, Harry is the second prince, not the first prince, to marry a woman who was a divorcee.
Yeah.
There was a king earlier, Charlton, decades ago, that gave up his monarchy to marry a divorcee from the U.S. So Meghan Markle is the second U.S. prince to be in Europe.
Yeah.
But, for Harry to reach out, Charlton, and love has no color, no barriers. That's the thing that you have to understand in life.
Yeah.
You have to be with somebody that makes you happy.
Right.
That's what it's all about. Everyone wants to say that, society's become an interracial mesh pot.
Anyway.
And blacks were forced into it from slavery.
Yeah.
They had no choice. And so when you look at what's going on in America, whites have forced most cultures into interracial relationships and saying, well, we don't want to have it, but we will do it. But, for the monarchy accept that and the world to accept that openly, I think it just shows how the world has transformed.
Yeah.
That you can be of royalty and be of color also.
Yep. I want to ask you one more thought on this, because I think it's so fascinating. Race is something that people don't talk about openly. They say, well, I'm not qualified to talk about how I feel or my life experiences. Let's bring in a guy who wrote a book. What hogwash. You can talk about your experiences. Now, if there's anything that Prince Harry could say to POTUS, and I'm being so serious, I know POTUS ironically timed having Tiger Woods come to the White House to talk about he's egalitarian and a non-racist person at the timing of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. People don't see that, but I see it that way. And he timed it for this moment. So when we talk about how diversity is and how we have a society that is meandered in many different colors, in religions and faiths. POTUS knows that he's a separatist, but he brings in one of the most famous persons in the universe, in Tiger Woods. During the arrival of the Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, their child, so he can also say that he believes in equality outside of Ben Carson and Omarosa, who he also fired. There's no equality in the White House. What could POTUS learn from a younger, more erudite man in Prince Harry? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, one thing he can learn, Charlton, he's already set in his ways. You know, to bring Tiger Woods into the White House today and to give him the Presidential Medal of Freedom while he's still a performing athlete, I think is a far stretch, because Tiger's still out there competing on the course. When you think about all athletes who received this medal in the past, they have been retired from the field of sports, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so, as you said, the president was reaching out, trying to steal the spotlight from the European culture today, Charlton, with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, to bring in Tiger Woods. And this is the ceremony, Charlton, like I said, it's only been done for retired athletes before.
I know.
But this is the president trying to reach out, saying that he's culturally sensitive and aware of the plights of minorities in America. He has no sensibility of that, Charlton. Tiger Woods is not a minority of America. He is part of the elite establishment.
Yeah.
He's a multi-millionaire, possibly billionaire, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he does not understand what the average African-American goes through. So the president was doing a far reach today by bringing in Tiger Woods. I mean, congratulations to Tiger for getting the Medal of Freedom from the president. But I think it was an ill-timed event for the president.
Yeah, and I would hope if Tiger had even an ounce. You know how the Bible says if we had only the faith of the size of the grain of a mustard seed, I wish he would have some of what Colin Kaepernick had. But even if he does, he's too quiet about it. But that's his own opinion. At least I'll do my part speaking out. So congratulations on the new baby. And I'm sure every little child wants a sibling, Big C. Is that too much pressure? She just had the baby. Don't they need a sibling, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you got to give it a few months, Charlton. And you know, number 2 will be on its way. Harry's going to be excited about the first one and want to know what the second one looks like. I mean, that's part of the royal culture, is that they don't sit around with just one child, Charlton. You have multiple births, because you're about building heirs to the throne, Charlton. You want that extended family, and it's great. It's hard to raise a child by itself. You think about every parent out there who has one child. Say, well, that's all I wanted was one child. Think about what that child has in life. That child has nothing. It has no one to depend on when that parent is gone. Once they get older, they have no sibling. They have no one to bounce it off of, even as they grow up. That is the greatest miscarriage, I've always thought, that people who have only one child, and I know it's everybody's choice.
Some cultures are like that
But think
too.
about yourself, having friendship, having relationships. Think about what a child needs. Not only do they need the parents, but they need that sibling, to have that sibling bond with, Charlton.
And I agree. And I know they're going to set a good example for people all over the world to cut out on the racial enmity and at least talk about it. And I know some people might say, well, why is that so important? Because they never experienced it. I hope that we can at least enlighten some people. Congratulations, and I wish them nothing but the best. Big C, speaking of congratulations, I know you guys like horses, and I know you launched the Big C Burger. I don't know how much fanfare you had over the Big C Burger, because when you launched that burger, it's from the horse. We thought that maximum security that you had around the ingredients in the Big C Burger, I know you had security high, but when maximum security was disqualified at the 145th running of the Kentucky Derby in Churchill Downs, you know the horse was 65-1 odds. The winner was 65-1 odds. Can you think about $99 million? $99 million was affected by recalling the winner of that Derby. And I know that people are still complaining about it now. I want to get your feeling on, do you think they made the right call? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a horse race with more than 2 horses in it where there's not some bumping and jockeying going on.
Exactly.
It happens. It's inevitable. You had 20 horses in this race on a slippery track, and you're going to say that this horse from start to finish led the race, and yet he impeded other horses from the ability to pass him, Charlton. These horses are not looking behind them. At least I haven't seen one that can while he's running. But, you know, you have to go and say, this is the first horse race ever that a horse has bumped other horses, Charlton, that has moved out on other horses. and now you're going to disqualify a horse in the biggest race in history.
I know.
You know, the Kentucky Derby is the biggest horse race ever. And to have this abomination occur, and think about it, it takes 20 minutes. I mean, you and I have talked about this continuously on our show.
Yeah.
There is too much damn replay in sports, every sport.
Yeah.
Baseball, basketball, football, soccer. I mean, next is going to be in golf. You're going to have a replay in golf, where you can challenge a shot in golf.
Yeah.
You got replay in tennis where you can challenge.
Yeah.
You have replay in hockey. But now that it has reached in the horse racing, and you think about this, you got human beings determining what a horse was thinking, what a horse intentionally or unintentionally done. I mean, now we've really pushed the envelope as far as replay goes in sports. And I don't know if anybody could justify, and that was a horse that ran last year.
Yep.
But you think about it, can anybody justify a human determining the thought process of a horse?
Of an animal,
that horse intentionally moved out on the other horses to cut them off. It was that prescient.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up watching Mr. Ed on television.
Yep.
He talked all the time, ran his mouth too much sometimes.
All right.
But now that's where we've gotten to in horse racing.
Yeah.
Is that now human beings are saying that this horse made a conscious effort to cut off the other horses so that they wouldn't have an opportunity to win the race.
Yeah, that horse was discriminated against, Big C. I think I've never seen that, and I just never seen that where they said the horse impeded or the jockey impeded, and I've never seen a race where people didn't touch, especially when you're running on a muddy track. If you run around in mud, any person that's ever put on some shoes and you run around a muddy track, you're going to have some slipping. If you drive a vehicle on a muddy track, you're going to have some slippy. So Country House, 65-1 odds. And prop betting is real. I know people don't think about it. Supreme Court judge, they knew what they were doing. When $99 million can change hands on because of a replay, not pay it out because maximum security didn't get the championship. And I just think that's a shame. And I don't know how you tell the owners of these horses that put their life into it that you won, but you really didn't win. So what we saw with our eyes, we didn't see. So what about the horse they gave it to? They're saying that Country House never bumped any other horse on the whole race. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, there were several incidents up and down the track where horses were colliding and sliding into each other.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel appalled about, as well as many other Americans and any sport fan looking at this, is that now you're going to take 20 minutes and determine that this race was not the race that we saw. We're seeing this too often in sports. Don't believe your lying eyes. Believe what we tell you on video. You think about in the NFL, when there's a replay, you got somebody going to New York. They can make a determination in how many seconds?
Few seconds.
In 30 seconds, 30 to 60 seconds. They can make a determination. And they're not even at the event, Charlton. Same thing with the NBA. We're watching the NBA playoffs all the time right now. We see these officials go over to the monitor. They've made a determination within 60 seconds what just transpired on the sport. I've been watching the NHL playoffs, and the referees are getting it right every time. They can get offsides right in a heartbeat, Charlton. They can get a no-goal right in a heartbeat. They can get a cross-checking right in a heartbeat. And if they have to go to the monitor to verify what they've just seen, it's done within 30 seconds. But you're talking about the egregiousness of 20 minutes of breakdown. We're talking about half frame at a time, Charlton, to say that this horse is intentionally impeding the other horses. 20 minutes. So we all watched the race. The race takes 2 minutes. It took 10 times as long to determine you wanted to disqualify this horse as the race took.
And you know what? And I'm so serious about this because so much money. And Big C, you're president. You saw this. You said it before. Watch the shenanigans that will go on when the Supreme Court said that betting is legal in all the states now. And you know there's an underworld to this business. And sometimes that underworld, it surfaces, but they cover it up so easily. And now anyway, the horses that compete and they train and they do everything possible to get themselves in position to do that, and the jockeys too. I just think it's unfair when you tell the whole universe that we did not see what we saw. But Country House, congratulations. I know they're not going to give up the trophy. I want to just bring up one more story that we talked about Friday, and it's been all over the mothership today. I knew we covered it Friday about the 23 horses that have died at Santa Anita. Now they're saying something to do with medication, being improperly medicated, etc. And that's an egregious thing. If there were 23 athletes, Big C, that had passed away from a professional sports team, don't you think there'd be a lot more story on that? Why would it just kind of sleep out in the news? Does that make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, horse doping has gone on forever.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to pass drug tests just like most athletes do.
Yeah.
But all the time they're not tested. So you think about the chemicals that they give to these animals to try to get them into peak performance, to keep them healthy, ligament damage, all these things to get rid of pain in the body. So when you're talking about the administering of medication to these horses, some done legal, some done illegal.
Exactly.
But you think about that, Charlton. You think about the coverage that an animal get versus a human being.
23 of them.
You think about how many Americans die in the U.S. every day from opioid addiction.
Yeah, a lot.
And these opioids that are not coming from the southern border.
No.
You think about how many Americans die every day from fentanyl that's coming from China, coming through our ports of entry. You think about how many Americans that die every day from crack.
Yeah.
You know, that is produced here in America, not coming across the southern border.
Right.
We don't get the coverage on Americans dying. This is what I said a couple of weeks ago. That if somebody hits a dog on the street, 20 cars will stop.
Yeah.
If somebody hits an African American on the street, maybe one car will stop.
Trying to get
but
a cab.
You think about the coverage and enmity that's given to these animals, and I'm not saying that the animals don't deserve pristine care.
Right.
But I think about human beings first, Charlton.
Yeah.
In European countries, they eat horses, all right?
Yeah.
They're on the table tonight for dinner.
Yeah.
Or last night for dinner.
Right.
But in America, we don't think about human beings more than we think about animals, Charlton.
Well, I know that everybody has their opinion about what it is, and I think when you brought up that we test for everything in the workforce, we test athletes for everything, and sometimes the owners they're getting whatever they can as far as an advantage for those animals to run around tracks.
Well, Charlton, think about this. Do you see African Americans owning horses at Santa Anita? No. These are all white owners. These are all white trainers. These are the ones administering the drug overdoses to the horses. Is anybody going to be prosecuted? No.
Probably
Michael
not.
Vick went to prison for dogs.
He sure did.
But these owners and these trainers are not going to go to prison for poisoning these horses.
Wow.
But if he was a black trainer poisoning these horses, Charlton, he'd be prosecuted. Michael Vick went to prison for fighting dogs, okay?
Yeah.
And killing dogs.
Yeah.
You got these white trainers killing horses at Santa Anita. Nobody will be prosecuted.
Isn't that something? I didn't even think about that, Big C, but that is very true. Michael Vick, of course, he'd spent some time for something less egregious than what's. But everybody has their opinion about that. I just hope that they can find a way to get to the bottom of it. I want to just touch on something when it comes to the world of what's happening with the NHL. I know it's kind of a hidden story, it seems, but we're having some good NHL competition. And when you think about it, everybody really is focused on the NBA because it's hard to compete against the NBA. But you have 2 NHL playoff games tonight. The Boston Bruins, which just have a phenomenal backdrop when you look at Boston and the whole area of Massachusetts. They have a 3-2 lead over the Carolina Blue Jackets. And then you look at the San Jose Sharks. They have a 3-2 lead over the Colorado Avalanche. And it would be so ironic if and I'm out here on the West Coast, but if the Sharks hoist Lloyd Stanley's Cup, all because of that 5-minute egregious power play against Las Vegas, of all cities, of all teams, that would just be something that you're going to think about. It might be an asterisk if they win it. But give me your feeling on how you're perceiving the NHL playoffs compared to other sports going on right now, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the NHL playoffs is fantastic, Charlton. You talk about some heated games that have been played. I mean, fast-paced hockey on the ice. I mean, they've been exciting. And you think about it, you have 2 series going on tonight that are 3-2 each.
Yeah.
And that's what hockey is all about. We haven't had any sweeps.
No.
You know, these teams are going out there competing. And you spoke about the Boston area. You have the Celtics in the playoffs. You have the Bruins in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You have the Red Sox. picking up momentum in the American League East.
Yeah.
It's a great area to be in right now in Boston. But, you have to pay attention to what's going on in hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough to watch the games on television because you don't get all the nuances of what goes on the ice. You really don't hear the sound. You don't hear the movements and stuff, Charlton. But it's a great fast-paced game for those who are knowledgeable of the game. And I really enjoy it. And you talk about the San Jose Sharks, if they were able to reach Stanley's Cup after having that egregious 5-minute penalty against the Las Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah.
But, they're in a tough series. They're in a dogfight against the Avalanche, who has won the Stanley Cup before, when Patrick Roy was playing goalie for the Avalanche. And you think about the Avalanche, Charlton. They're a team that was originally in Canada prior to coming to the U.S.
Part of the expansion.
And they're still in it. San Jose Sharks is the only team right now in the NHL playoffs, as well as the St. Louis Blues, who have never won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and I know with everything the way it is right now, Big C, it looks like with a 3-2 lead right now over Colorado, I know they have to be counting all their lucky stars. When you talk about stars, the Dallas Stars, they were outlasted by the St. Louis Blues at 4-1 to even the series 3 games apiece. And we have a Game 7 in the NHL, and I think that's great for the world of NHL hockey that we do have a Game 7, and it's something that I would hope to get more attention on by all the networks, and I'm sure it will. But this is a statement for hockey. We want to see. I don't know if we're going to see any Game 7s in the NBA playoffs. We may, if you're looking at Denver and Portland, and who knows with Golden State and Houston, it would just be hard for Houston to come back and win 4 of the remaining 5 after being down 0-2. Philadelphia, their series with Toronto. So it could happen, but give me your feeling on the St. Louis Blues and the Dallas Stars. We have a Game 7, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that's exciting in any professional sports when you have a 7-game series. And the Blues came out hot offensively and held the Stars in check to force a Game 7, Charlton. But will they have enough energy to get through a Game 7? They expended a lot of energy in tying up this series at 3-3 with that 5-1 victory. But, sometime when it comes to a Game 7, the favorite is always knowing a way to win the game, Charlton.
Yeah, that's always true. And, we love it all. We love it all. It's fair. It's all fair in love and war. We've talked about Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, having a beautiful baby child, a young boy that can also grow up to be a prince. And everyone wants to have the chance to call their children a princess or a prince. And I know that we can, depending on how society is. I just hope that, and this may be Pollyanna's thinking, but I would hope that every child in the world would have the chance to get the same treatment of the royal family's newborn child. And that's just, you got to think about it a lot. You got to reach for that and talk about it before those things can happen. What we're going to do is take what we call the Big C pause. We'll take a Big C pause and come right back in a moment. And on the other side of the Big C pause, we're going to talk about what's going on in the world of Major League Baseball and also the world of the NBA. All right, Big C, we are back from the Big C pause. I want to just thank everybody who had any thoughts and prayers in their own lives, that they have their own, newborn child anywhere in the world, anywhere in the universe, that your baby is also healthy, wealthy, and wise. We pray that. I know before we get into some of what's going on in the world of baseball, I know you're a big football guy, and the XFL they just announced it, their agreement. They're going to have kickoff in 2020, and it's going to be, I believe, a 10-game season. They're going to play their games on 11 a.m. and then 2 p.m. West Coast time, Pacific Standard Time. So that gives people a good chance, just like the NFL does. But I want to get your feeling. ESPN and ABC and Fox will be covering this. So this is not like trying to find it on True Network or some other, ancillary network. I think it has some hope, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is the power of Vince McMahon, being able to get network coverage, primetime network coverage for his second start at the XFL, Charlton.
Yeah.
And by having that means they have the financial backing to make this league last. And by getting on those networks, that means that the XFL is also in partnership with the NFL, that the NFL has given it its blessing. It's not going to fight this league, Charlton. They're looking at this as a feeder league for the NFL to get players some experience that not just getting in training camp, but there's also a slippery slope when you look at that, Charlton.
Yeah.
When the NFL signs players that have played in the XFL, think about the length of season that these players will have played. They would have played 10 games in the XFL and probably had 1 or 2 preseason games to go along with that. So let's say 12. And if you make it through a championship series, you know you're going to have at least 3 games, 2 to 3 games in that. So you could play a 12 to 15 game schedule as a player in the XFL, Charlton.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you come to the NFL where you got 4 preseason games you got to deal with. You make the roster, there's 16 games on top of that. We've looked at 20 games right there. So you have a player sitting there at 35 games minimal, Charlton.
That's a lot.
That they could have played prior to even getting into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And if you go to the Super Bowl, you're looking at a player that could have participated in 28 games, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's a toll on the body. I understand the excitement for football and the want and the need in the NFL to create a feeder league for the NFL, but they've always talked about the hazards of a player, reducing the hazards on a player's body.
Yeah.
You know, the opportunity for injury. They've cut back on 2-a-days in training camp, the contact in training camp, but they haven't looked at this, Charlton, bringing players in that have already played some 13 to 15 games.
Yeah.
And now bringing them into the training camp as well as the regular season. I think we're looking at a high impact of health problems, Charlton.
Yeah.
If players coming from the first league, the XFL, and entering into the NFL, nobody is built to take a 28-game rigorous schedule, Charlton.
You know, we talk about the NFL. Do they really need Thursday night football? I would say no, just because of what you said. I know the kid from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and of course, you know, it's a tough business, and sometimes you can't walk away because of injury. But Shazier, obviously, a lot better now than he was when the injury happened, and we hope that he continues to make a recovery. But if you can give me your feeling on why the NFL will not sabotage this league the way Donald Trump was part of the USFL not making it. And we've seen so many things before where you would think they had a good product. You would think they had a good thing, some fanfare, but it didn't make it. And I know we had the NBA with the WNBA, of course, different genders. And WNBA is not as popular as NBA, but it's newer, and it still works in some markets. What do you think would happen for players that are coming out of college, and you know they don't get drafted? They can't go back to college because they lost eligibility, as far as I believe. Would this be would they be able to have a livelihood in this league, therefore making college less exciting for college kids? That make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I'm not sure of all the rules that the XFL has. I know that they talked about early entry into the XFL, just like the USFL had early entry into that, and that also created early entry into the NFL draft.
Yeah.
What the USFL created decades ago.
Yeah.
But I think with the XFL is that it's going to give opportunities to a lot of players, just like the defunct AAF that was gone away, and the NFL scooped up many of the players that were in that league. The thing about football, it's about getting repetitions.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of players are not getting sitting on the bench. You think about going to training camp, and each NFL team is bringing in some, 85 players in the training camp.
Right.
That means 30 players are not going to make the roster, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so if those 30 players that don't make the roster across the league, that's times 32. Okay?
Yeah.
So we're looking at a copious amount of players out there that are unemployed. And so this XFL, I think that this time Vince McMahon is doing it right, because he's delaying the launch of the league until next year.
Yeah.
He's not trying to rush out there and say, okay, we're putting everything in place right now.
Yeah.
You have to get everything in order, business-wise. You got to have your business plan laid out. They've got the broadcasting module in place, which was the number one financial backing that they needed.
That's huge.
Now they got the coaches in place. They can go in and do a proper training and evaluation during their training camps and preseason, Charlton.
Yeah.
To have the players ready to put a polished product on the field, just like the USFL did several decades ago, Charlton. The XFL is going to follow in that blueprint, but by having the backing of ESPN, ABC, and Fox, now we can see this on the networks. As you say, you don't have to search for it on some offshoot channel if you don't have a cable package.
Right. That's a good point. I hope it makes it, because it creates jobs. It creates jobs for everybody involved, not just the players, and the owners, of course, need to find a way to employ more people. But concessions, it just gives people hope. I don't know what city is going to be involved yet. I would hope that they would not try to play these games in an NFL stadium. I would hope they could find some maybe middle of the road college stadiums, if that makes any sense, to get some smaller towns involved where the stadiums might average about 30 to 40,000 as opposed to 65, 75, 80,000. Your thoughts?
Well, that's what you need. You're not going to take away from the NFL. The NFL took Sunday away from God, okay?
Yeah.
So you're not going to take fanfare away from the NFL.
Right.
So to be in those medium-sized stadiums, Charlton, as you said, 35, 40,000, that you're not in an NFL market where you're in a non-compete situation.
Yeah.
And even if you are, there's NFL markets that have universities that are farther enough away from those NFL stadiums that you can compete.
Yeah.
You got to think about where the NFL dollar is now, Charlton. It's outpriced a lot of fans in these markets.
Yeah.
I know that there was an article that I read last week about personal seat license.
Yeah.
That fans are balking on the personal seat license. There's an NFL team that was in the Super Bowl just a couple of years ago. Their season ticket holders now are down to 50,000 in a 76,000 seat stadium.
Yeah, I think that's
so.
Atlanta.
Everybody is not going to the NFL games because the NFL has made its product so reachable by every little device that you can hold on your hand or have in your house.
Yeah,
so
that's
everybody is not going to pay that exorbitant price to go to an NFL game, but there's still that hunkering to see professional football. And if you price it right, Charlton, that's the key. You have to price it right where it's affordable for families to attend.
I think we heard that from Bart Barker. The price is right. I remember watching The Price is Right, and Bart Barker was right. The NFL should pay attention to that. And I wish everybody success, especially when you have some smaller towns that play Division I, 2A football, and they have 30,000, 40,000 seat stadiums. They may turn up because a lot of those schools, they're just middle of the road, and they would probably turn up to support. I think the USFL back in the day, it was the Sacramento Surge, and they also had the Sacramento Mountain Lions. They played at about a 30,000 seat stadium, and they sold out. They sold out 30,000 seats all the time before the USFL went away, and also the World Football League back in the day. It was the Sacramento Surge. I think they played Montreal up in Canada for the championship game, but they were always sold out. I doubt if they would have sold out if they played at Candlestick Park, which held almost 70,000. So I hope they learn from that, Big C. I want to look at the world of Major League Baseball. Grando Deportes. We talked about Major League Baseball going down into Mexico, and they've had a couple of series down there. And if you look at what happened with Houston, they jumped all over Anaheim or the LA Angels, and that was a great environment, nice stadium, good fanfare. I think it went off pretty well, Big C. I want to get your feelings on that.
Well, Charlton, there should be more series played in Mexico City. When you think about the Latin influence in Major League Baseball, the understanding of the game by Latin Americans, Charlton, it's a game that's played down there just like soccer is.
Yeah.
And so I think that American League Baseball, National League Baseball has missed the boat over the years by not putting multiple series down in Mexico, Charlton, to have those fans. But that's the way you build cultural relationships also. Not like the president talking about closing down the border, but take those athletes down there. You create financial revenue for those people in that region, Charlton, and they get to see Major League Baseball firsthand. You talked about it a lot on the show about being able to see Major League Baseball as a kid growing up. You think about the young kids down in Mexico being able to see Major League players, not just on TV, but live in their own venue. That's great ambassadorship for baseball.
Yeah, I think it's great. Also, they're going across the pond, and I don't know if the people in the great Northeast would appreciate it. The Yankees and the Red Sox will play over in England, later in the season. Now, I don't know any fan that would not want to go to Yankee Stadium or Fenway Park to see a home game. Are they emulating what the Raiders are doing, playing home games in Mexico and also England? I'd like to see baseball expand across the pond, but I think it's unfair to the two iconic cities on the East Coast that love baseball, New York and Boston. I'm sure some of their fans, they can't get on that plane and go across the pond to see their teams. Your thoughts?
Well, you think about a lot of immigrants, Charlton, from England that live in the New York metropolitan area as well as in the Boston area.
Yeah.
That game has been sold out since an hour and a half after it was announced that it was going to be played in England.
Yeah.
54,000 tickets went off the market in an hour and a half. That's how much fanfare there is over there. Because when you think about the early years of baseball, a lot of heritage came from across the pond, Charlton.
Yeah.
They were playing in the early years of baseball. So, I mean, going over across the water, I mean, the NFL has had success in it.
They've been doing it.
Europeans are very knowledgeable about the American games that go over here because of the NFL. You think about tennis being played at Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Soccer is the universal game, and baseball is played around the world also.
Yeah, it's played around the world also. And we look at baseball, and I just want to run down some of the schedule for tonight, and then we'll talk about who's leading divisions. It's a great day. I love that baseball is getting some more fanfare, especially just going around the world. When you talk about World Series champions, maybe someday we will have an authentic World Series champions, the same way we have the World Cup that invites countries from all over the world. Chicago, the White Sox at Cleveland. Seattle at New York. The Yankees are in town. Boston is at Baltimore. Minnesota's at Toronto. I love how we play it in Canada. Arizona's at Tampa Bay. Washington is at Milwaukee. You have Philadelphia at St. Louis. Can someone hit the ball over the arch, especially when you're making $330 million? Miami is at Chicago, the Cubs. Kansas City's at Houston. Houston just had a back-to-back. One they played outside of the country, and then within 24 hours they're playing inside of the country again. Big C Houston after beating up on the LA Angels. And then New York Mets at San Diego. Atlanta at Los Angeles Dodgers. And a makeup game San Francisco at Cincinnati. Do you think it's fair for Houston to have to travel? I mean, it's not that far of a flight to go from where they were back to Houston, but shouldn't they at least get a day off, Big C, traveling outside of the country and then coming back in? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at some of the major league schedules, I saw the Atlanta Braves play down in Miami and then turn around and play in San Diego.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about cross-country flights, and this is the next day, that's nothing to come from Mexico City back to the city of Houston.
Yeah, that's true. So I wish them nothing but the best. I love baseball and the way they're spreading it out. American League Baseball standings. In the East, Tampa Bay Rays 21-12. In the Central, Minnesota Twins, they're 20-12. In the West, the Houston Astros are 20-14. I want to just get your feeling. Altuve and Pujols, I know they were just being playful, and Pujols was tugging on Altuve's ear, but isn't it ironic that we talk about the size of athletes getting bigger and stronger, and we talked about some football players during the combine and in the draft workouts, guys that were 6'6", running a 4.4 40, 300 pounds. You look at the size of Pujols, who's not in shape anymore. He's on the other side of his career, about 2 more years left. And Altuve, he's about a foot shorter, maybe even more. But they both have the same kind of hitting power, especially how Altuve hits now compared to Pujols in his prime. Give me a feeling on seeing such different size of players, but the same kind of batting power. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, I mean, if you took Altuve and put him next to Aaron Judge, you're taking 5'7", standing next to 6'7".
Yeah.
You know, the thing about baseball players, Charlton, is body leverage.
Yeah.
You know, you can see a shortstop who can take it out of the ballpark. You can see a catcher. You can see a right fielder.
Yeah.
It's about bat speed in baseball. It's an equalizer. It's not like football where size matters based on the position that you play. Baseball is about the mechanics of the game, knowing how to utilize every nuance of your body. That's what makes baseball great. And when you think about the Latin ball players, Charlton, they all have a kinship with each other.
Yeah.
They all came from the same desperate backgrounds, generally coming to America, and have lived the American dream, being successful as a professional Major League Baseball player, reaching millions, Charlton, in financial dividends. And so when you think about these guys enjoying the game that they played as a kid, and they're still playing it as a middle-aged man as far as baseball years go, they're joking with each other because they know where they came from and they know where they are.
Yeah, I thought that was a great moment for the sport. Oftentimes we show when people charge the mound, but it's nice to see people just having fun. That's what little kids do, playing Little League Baseball. They all have a lot of fun. I love that, Big C. It reminds me of a commercial that I saw on TV. There's some network, they had a sleepover. There must have been about 10, 15 young boys. and they were having a sleepover. They were all under the blankets, and some kids had moved the pillows off the couch, and they have this device that can tell you who has a hot spot in the house and who has an electronic item on. And she said, okay, boys, let's round them up. It's time to go to sleep, and hand them over. And one kid says, hand what over? But the mother could see the device they still had on, and some dude was hiding under the couch, and he was surprised that they found him. Bixby, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is the electronic age we live in. I remember as a kid when the lights were out, having that flashlight, trying to read a comic book up under the blankets and the sheets, Charlton. For us, that was the mode of operandi when we were children, at owning a flashlight and a comic book.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. He thought he could hide his tablet under his pillow. No, the electronic signature picked it up. I thought that was funny, Big Z. In the National League baseball standings in the East, Philadelphia Phillies 19-14. In the Central, Chicago Cubs 19-12. In the West, you have the LA Dodgers at 20-14. Man, Jensen got had on a walk-off down at Petco Park in San Diego. That was worth the sight. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's the greatest walk-off that you can have, a grand slam in a baseball game to end it all. I mean, you got the bases juice. You bring in the relief pitcher, Charlton, but you let one get away up in the strike zone, and it's all over with. But, the greatest moments in sports, baseball, hitting that home run. Yeah, the crack of the bat, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. And think about the Cubs. They've gone from last to first place in the Central Division. But on this day, 1996, it was rookie pitcher Kerry Woods. It was only his fifth start. His fifth start, Big C, as a major league pitcher. Would you believe he struck out 20 batters versus the Houston Astros? And that was tying legendary pitcher Roger Clemens for the most strikeouts by a pitcher in a game. And the fact that he was such a young pup doing it, Big C, that was amazing. Your thoughts? Well, you think about that, Charlton. That was probably one of the greatest games ever pitched in baseball. Only your fifth start in the major leagues. Yep. And you strike out 20 versus one of the hottest batting teams in the major league, the Houston Astros, at that time. But Kerry Woods, I mean, you go down in history. Your fifth start, 20 strikeouts. Something that the terrible thing about that is that you can never live up to that again. No. 5 games into your major league career, you strike out 20. You strike out 12, you had a bad day now. Yeah, that's nothing, Big C, when you have guys that can throw that hard and that accurate for such a long time. I want to bring your thoughts into something that I know we all love, and it's a great time of year. If you don't like NBA basketball now, you probably haven't watched enough. It's so exciting. And I look at what happened going back to, I know we have the game tonight, Golden State and Houston's big, also Boston and Milwaukee. And there's so much talk about Steph Curry. Steph Curry's been so good for so long. If he's an average player, then we say, well, something's wrong with him. All it is you can't be 100% all the time. You can't be on every night. But I will look at something that's a little bit, I told you, I'm naive and I'm a little bit, skeptic. But Golden State, Houston, Curry missed 2 layups in the final 45 seconds. And the Warriors don't even foul with 14 seconds left. Down by 5, which is a 2-possession game. And I know Vegas has seen what happened with the horse, the Kentucky Derby. All this talk about prop betting and can people be had. And I just don't know how someone as good as he is can miss that many layups and a slam dunk when he's done so many things. It makes you go, It just wonder about it. And even when I hear Mark Jackson and Stan Van Gundy, they were shocked that the Warriors and Coach Kerr didn't even call a foul. They were down 5. They still had 14 seconds left. Durant had just popped a 3, and it took like 1 second off the clock. Why would they give up with 14 seconds left? And you have guys like Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Durant. Does that make any sense? Your thoughts? Johnson, you got a team that can knock it down from anywhere on the court. And, it was strange that the offensive lack of output by the Warriors in this game. The Warriors missed 5 layups in this game. Steph Curry, in the paint, layups. These are points that you give somebody. Yeah. And the cold shooting night that he had, I haven't seen him shoot this atrocious from the field ever in his career. And, to have wide open looks at the basket and just clanking everything. Yeah. But the Warriors just did not seem in sync offensively in this game. The Houston Rockets really didn't do much to do anything for themselves. And then the Warriors missed their last 5 shots of this game. And this was a game that they were leading, with less than 2 minutes to go in the game.
Yep.
And they could not make a basket, Charlton. But, it was preponderance that here it is. They're not calling a timeout. They're not making fouls against Houston in the game late.
Yep.
It's almost like they wanted to push this series even further. So, congratulations to Houston in this game.
Yeah.
But, without the bench scoring of Tucker, Houston wasn't in this game at all.
No.
I mean, here it is. He knocks down 27 points off the bench.
Yeah.
Without him, Houston would have just been blown away in this game.
Yeah, and Harden, he got the 41 points, and that was a charge on Draymond Green, but they let it go. We know the league won 7 games, and I know people will say, oh, no, that's not true. Too many people would have to be in on it. But really, trust your eyes sometimes. It just doesn't make any sense. But I know it's just part of love and war. So we have tonight, Golden State Warriors. They shot so bad in this game. And Houston played really good ball, but they barely got the win. I know the league would love to see this series even up tonight at 2, because the TV ratings would be off the chart. I'm not surprised by anything that happens. And if they could turn around and make this a best of 3, isn't that what we're getting in the NHL playoffs? But I doubt if Curry and Thompson and Durant are all going to have a bad night. I don't see that happening. I think Chris Paul's better when he's not trying to kick his legs out and draw the foul. But there's something about Harden. I don't know if he can go back-to-back 40 points, which he might have to get a win. But if you're Golden State, and if you believe my prop friend, my prop bet guy down in Vegas, what is Coach Kerr doing not calling a timeout? He's supposed to be the best coach in the universe. You got to fight till the end. I remember the Celtics, Johnny Morris, Larry Bird stole the pass from Isaiah Thomas, and they scored. DJ had a layup, Big C. That was just about 3 seconds left. Boston didn't give up, so some shenanigans going on. People may not want to talk about it, but I think that's true in my heart of hearts. Milwaukee Bucks, they have a 2-1 lead over the Celtics tonight. That game's already underway. We don't give out scores, but I just want to get your feeling. Can Boston even beat this team if Giannis plays like the Lion King that he is? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Giannis went to the free throw line 22 times in the last game, Charlton.
Yeah.
Giannis gave up on his outside shot and realized he needed to penetrate the lane and get to the basket.
Yeah.
And that's what the Boston Celtics were at their Achilles heel, Charlton, allowing the dribble penetration by the Milwaukee Bucks, getting in the paint. Boston did a lot of complaining in this game, Charlton. That's what they have to get over with.
Yeah.
They can't sit out there and complain about the officiating. We've seen this in every sport that's being played now.
Yeah.
Players are sitting up complaining about the officiating. Just play the game.
Yeah.
We saw that with Houston, complaining with Chris Paul, getting technicals, complaining about the officiating. We got the same thing from Kyrie Irving. You got to do what your opponent is doing. If they're getting to the basket, you need to get to the basket. That's how you draw the fouls in the NBA.
Yep.
We saw that with the Warriors and the Rockets. James Harden getting to the line by penetrating the lane. NBA players now are afraid to foul somebody.
Yeah.
But I think they should go back to the hard foul, just like the Detroit Pistons used to do.
Yeah.
Back in the days. The New York Knicks used to do the hard foul. Send somebody to the line. Make them earn that 2 points. Just don't give them a free layup.
Yeah. I don't understand what Kerr is doing. And again, thoughts and prayers of Danny Ainge. And I know he's going to be okay. And everybody else, get your checkups. If you got to do that, we know that it's all part of life. So give me your thoughts on, think about Embiid. I heard someone, I know of some guys who teach martial arts, and they say as far as being in shape, you got to swim. It's not weightlifting. It's swimming that gets men in shape and women in shape. He looks like, I know he had all the injury problems earlier in his career, but he also has a lot of baby fat on him. Now, no one's expecting him to be like Karl Malone or even Giannis, but do you think that could help him? And if he calling his coach and saying, I don't know if I can give you what I got, like, why do you play the game if you can't give everything you have in the playoffs? It's not like you could take a week off. A lot of guys play sick. You played when you had broken bones. You didn't say, Coach, I got a broken finger, I can't play. Ronnie Lott bit his finger off. So everybody wants to say be a tough guy, but you don't want to hear a guy like Embiid calling his coach saying, I don't think I can play. That make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the young players today are a lot different from players 40 years ago.
Yeah.
In every sport. Players are now looking at the longevity of their career.
Yeah.
Players, when I played, looked at not being replaced. That's how it was.
That's true.
You got to look at Joel Embiid. He has never played an entire season in the NBA. That's what everybody's not understanding about it.
Yeah.
He's still a young guy. He's about 25 years old. He never played a complete season in college. He even missed 14 games late in the season this year.
Yeah.
He didn't play at all his rookie year. His second year in the NBA, he played less than 40 games.
Yeah.
So when you think about a guy with endurance problems, that's where Embiid is right now. His body has never been in condition that can take a 90-game schedule, the regular season of 82 plus playoff run. He's never been in that position, so he's in no man's land as far as his body is concerned right now. And so mentally, he's not strong mentally. That's where he has to find himself.
Yeah.
I know he talked a lot of trash about the New York Knicks, but now he needs to talk trash about himself and find out where his mental capabilities are and where his strengths are and his weaknesses are.
Yeah, I think that's very true. When we go back up to the Northwest, I thought Portland had enough to get those two at home. But something about Jokic, the way he played, and then Jamal Murray, that brother's amazing. I don't know what he's doing. He's like a Russell Westbrook that nobody knows about. But you think about only the second pair of teammates to score a triple-double in a playoff game since Magic Johnson and the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar back in the 1980s, and the Nuggets even their series up against the Trailblazers, 116-112 win in the Motor Center of all places, which is one of the most difficult places to win. Give me your feeling on their 1-2 punch. I know it's not like Stockton and Malone, but it's pretty close. Your thoughts?
Well, you think about Murray, he's probably the next best Canadian guard since Steve Nash of the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
And, being there in Denver with Jokic, you got 2 point guards on the floor. But, this shows the unselfishness of this team. And you would have thought after the epic 4 overtime game they had just came away from just hours before, going back into game 4, Charlton, that they may not have had the legs. But that game didn't affect them all. I guess playing in a mile-high city gives you a little extra oxygen in your lungs when you come down to sea level.
Yeah.
But, it was a great game by both teams. And you think about this series. This right now is the best series going on in the NBA that not many people pay attention to.
Yeah.
Up in the Pacific Northwest, you got a series tied at 2-2, outstanding back courts and front courts. Cantor has played, outstandingly well, for Portland.
Yeah.
The backcourt of Lillard and Lowry, have been excellent. And then Murray stepping up with that triple-double along with Jokic.
Yeah.
Must-see basketball. Millsap, at 34 years old for Denver, is playing outstanding basketball in a leadership role.
Yeah, he's amazing. So I love NBA basketball. This is what it's all about when players come together and everybody you don't know who can win. Everybody has an opportunity. I feel that tonight, if things go right and I don't see some shenanigans, Golden State should leave Houston up 3-1. But when I believe this in my heart, Big C. I know some guys that make a living doing junk, and everybody does. But that stuff that Steve Kerr pulled about not using your time, you can't take him back to Oakland. You can't take him into Game 4. That doesn't make any sense, especially a guy that played with Jordan and learned under Coach Pop. They already got the loan completed for the Chase Center in San Francisco. That's just my opinion. But I do want to get, in the last few minutes, there was some talk that came, and I don't even know if they need this guy, but there's talk that DeMarcus Cousins, said he expects to play again this season after suffering a partially torn, quadricep muscle. It'd be nice to have him, but I don't think they need him. Give me your feeling if he would destroy the chemistry from what they already have going on, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if he can come back in the next series, whatever, I think it'd be a big plus for the lineup. If you look at how Houston has dominated Golden State in the paint.
Yeah.
Players getting to the basket freely, especially James Harden. He has as many layups as he does jump shots. He has no contestant along the rim. You have one defensive player in the game. That's Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
But he's normally out guarding on the wing. So when you look at Capella, how easily he's gotten to the basket with some passes from Chris Paul and dunking the ball. If you have to play Denver, think about the dominance of Jokic. Who is going to play him? He's a total mismatch. I don't know if Bogut can give you enough defensive minutes against Jokic to help out Golden State. So if he can come back and get you 15, 20 quality minutes, I think is a big plus.
Well, if he can come back, that'd be great to see. But tonight, watch the coaching in this game. No one leaves 14 seconds on the clock when you have the best shooters in the universe. Big C. I want to say congratulations to Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, and I know they follow Big C Sports. We have a new listener to Big C Sports. You can also follow Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, and Xfinity Comcast. I just wish them well, and I wish everybody well who has an addition to their family. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, what I'm looking forward to, Charlton, is getting over these back spasms tonight. I think I'm going to put in a call to your buddy Jeb Irsay, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts. See if he can hook me up with some oxycodone.
Yeah.
I know he can get it. He doesn't need a prescription for it. And I want to be his friend tonight.
Well, if he doesn't answer the call, try Rush Limbaugh. He says to have a couple hanging out with him too. And speaking of hanging out, you can too every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you, on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.